Howdy, Space Rangers, Captain Phoenix here. Oh, is it just me? Is the lighting a bit off? It's weird. Anyways, today we're talking about Star Wars Resistance Season 2. You know, it's funny. Star Wars Resistance was actually my first TV show review. And I remember I was so pumped up and excited to do the first season. It's crazy. I'm back. Season 2 ended a couple of months ago. I haven't gone around reviewing it because the season was so quiet, I didn't even know it ended. And yeah, I may or may not have skipped a few episodes, so this may not be a full analysis review like it was for season 1. But there was a lot of filler in this season, I'm not gonna lie. Alright, enough filler, let's get into it. Don't want to waste a lot of time. So, where do I even start with this? Let's start with I don't even know how to start this video. Okay, let's start with season 1 in case of the 5 billion people who never bothered to watch my videos. Yeah, so season 1, I found it to be kind of an average season. As said, I found it to be the weakest of all the Star Wars animated shows. But overall, I didn't think of it as a bad start. I kind of thought of it as an average start, like a first season. You know how the other shows, their first seasons were like average starts. This one was also very average, not bad, but it was like a nice lift off for the rest of the series to continue. And I was kind of excited for season 2. I wanted to see what season 2 did. Oh boy. Okay. Here we come to season 2. Season 2 is a very mixed bag, I'm not gonna lie. So, this series ended with season 2. So, season 2 is indeed the final season. It is the series finale, which is a bit weird because I could definitely see this show carrying on for future seasons. And to me, it feels like Disney cancelled this show mostly because the first season wasn't doing very well. By the way, I got my old studio back. Hallelujah, am I right? Anyway, so it seems like Disney didn't really. When the first season aired, there was a lot of backlash against it. There was a lot of fan backlash against it. And it makes sense. The first season came out a few. Was it like about a year, almost a year after the Last Jedi? People were still salty. The animation style was different, and the tone was meant completely for kids. When really Star Wars was like a teenager thing. So people were obviously mad when Disney made this thing for kids. So obviously there was a lot of backlash when the first season came out, and there was so much backlash. Apparently Disney decided to cancel the show. However, they couldn't cancel it after season 1 because season 2 was already mid production. So they're like, okay, you know what? We will end season 2 here, and the show will be over. We'll just end it with season 2. Now, obviously, they haven't come out to admit it or confirm it. If anything, they're actually trying to cover up the story by doing like the complete opposite, by saying, oh yeah, we always meant the show to last 2 seasons. We always meant it for the show like to only last for 2 seasons. That was how it was meant to be. When really, just even watching it by itself, you can tell this show wasn't meant to last 2 seasons. It was meant to last longer. However, due to circumstances, Disney just gave into the hate and cancelled it. I mean, Teen Titans went on for 5, almost 6 seasons now, and it's not cancelled. Teen Titans good, and it's not the actual Teen Titans. And so, yeah, fan backlash, the show got cancelled. Disney doesn't want to admit it got cancelled. If anything, they're trying to cover it up by saying it only lasted 2 seasons, made by Dave Filoni. So, let's talk about the second season. I know I have been rambling on, but I swear this is just to give you a background on the show. Now let's talk about the actual season. It picks up, okay, how do I explain it? Let's talk about the timeline first of all. Whereas the first season took place just before and during the events of episode 7, this season takes place during and after the events of episode 8. So it has no connection to episode 9. However, the first 2 seasons, I mean the show itself takes place within the events of the first 2 movies. So we start off like basically where the first one left off. We jump to another system. The first episode was kind of like, but it's a first episode, you can let it go. Then we jump into the second one, which I gotta say is honestly one of the better episodes of the entire show. The second episode of the second season. Reason being, we have Tam committing to the First Order. We get to see how willingly do this. We get to what else do we do? We get to see the First Order finally find the Colossus. We get to see the Colossus get to Dakar, but they find Dakar has already been bombed, meaning that this is happening during The Last Jedi. And, I like how the events are playing together. So I really like the second episode. The rest of the season is kind of filler, more filler than the first season, which let me not lie, is kind of a downgrade. If anything, one of the bad things about this season is the filler. I'm not a huge fan of the filler. Whereas with the first season, there was definitely filler, but that was more like in the first half of the season. With the second half, the story got more streamlined. It had at least some continuity to it. With this one, it just seems to be episode after episode after episode of them doing things. Even like with the first season, where like the last four episodes, which I mentioned in my review, were pretty good. This one, the story doesn't really get going until maybe the last two or three. It's really like the story only gets going once it's a bit too late. And again, that's just helping me say I don't really think this is final season material, considering even the finale was like two episodes in one. I think it was supposed to be like a part one, part two, but they just merged both episodes into one. The problem I have with the final episode is that, like, how do I say it? It doesn't feel like a final episode. You've had so many filler episodes. Then once you get to this one where Atam comes back, the way it ends, it feels more like a that's it. Like, to me, that's how the ending felt like to me. Like when I watched the ending and then the credits start rolling, I'm just scratching my head and I'm like, so do they join up with the actual resistance? Do they do something? What happens to them? Like, are they just floating through space? I don't know. Like, the First Order obviously has stopped chasing them because the Last Jedi, so they're more focused on other things. But it just, I don't know. It just, for a series finale, I'm just left there with the thought in my mind being like, that's it. Honestly, so I like the timeline the story takes place in. I just don't like the story itself. The story itself is very flawed and has a lot of issues to me. It just the story is all over the place, and I guess this also has to do with the pacing. The story and pacing is all over the place. For final season material, the pacing is not right. We can't just jump episode to episode to episode of these guys doing things, aka filler, and then you bring on a final episode that's supposed to close everything off, or really partially closes things off. We get Kaz, who wants to join the Resistance, but he's finally decided to stay with the Colossus. I guess that's an arc. It just came and went so suddenly. Tam's arc throughout the entire season of being a stormtrooper did pay off in the end. I like how it resolved in the end, but that's like the only arc I genuinely liked. Again, the story is messed. It just doesn't know where to go. And for final season material, I don't see it. I honestly can see this show getting a season 3, 4, and if they have enough material, maybe even a 5. I can see this show going on until even after the events of Rise of Skywalker. I don't see it stopping in between episode 8 and 9. In between episodes 8 and 9. Because again, the audience will just be left with, that's it? I don't get it. I'm not a big fan of the story and pacing of this season. It really rubs me in the wrong way. The animation, what do I think about the animation? I do like the animation better than the first season. What I especially like about the animation this season is the way they use refractive light coloring. The way it's like, how in movies we have like glassy things, like glassy surfaces. So when light shines on it, it's as if the light bounces back. It makes the glassy surface look more, how should I say, more real. So like the armor on the stormtroopers, especially Commander Pyre, whatever his name is, his armor actually looks like it's made of gold or whatever. I do like the mirror lighting coloring, whatever you call it. It's really good. I feel like they really improved on it this season, and I feel like it also clashes well with the dark colors. This season has decided to adapt a darker color to it, whereas the former season really didn't. So I like the way we have the mirror color lighting mixing in with the dark color, and it just produces something kind of good. It's not, again, the animation is not the best. I've seen Rebels and Clone Wars and those have better animation, but the animation this season it's really good. I like it. Another thing with this show is that it's a really ignored Star Wars show. Like, I don't want to say like it's underrated or anything, because let's be honest, yeah, this thing ain't a gem in the rough, but diamond in the rough is what I meant to say. But it's funny how Disney airs Clone Wars season 7 just as this thing is ending, and it's also funny how Clone Wars season 7 is being produced as this thing is being produced. It's like, it's so weird how Disney is focusing on other Star Wars projects other than this one. They clearly did not want this one to be the way it is, and it's just another example of how ignored the sequel trilogy is and how poorly planned it was from the start. But again, that's not this show's fault, in honesty. It really isn't. This show is just an effect of JJ and Ryan Johnson just crapping all over the sequel trilogy, and poor Dave Filoni and this show are paying the price for it. So again, it's not the show's fault. It just really doesn't mesh well. The characters are okay, I guess. Kaz, he's less annoying than he was in the first season, so that's always a plus. I really like Tam's story. She's honestly the strongest character in this season. Yiga, what have they done to you, my boy? He was the strongest character to me in the former season, the way he was a former rebel soldier. Here, he's just like, he's not even like the old wise man. He's just like some background character. He's kind of like Kaz's uncle to me. He's just there. Nico, he's annoying, not as annoying as previously, but still very much annoying, especially because we ran into another person of Nico's tribe. What do they call her, Nina or something? And she's not half as annoying. She's honestly kind of smart. Nico, he's too innocent. He's like SpongeBob if he were an alien. Um, and I and Tora, yeah, she's the upbeat manic pixie girl. That one, ugh. And all in all, yeah, those are basically the main characters you need to know. Not even what's his name? There was this Rocklin. Rocklin isn't even this season much. I mean, he wasn't in there much last season, but like he's really a prick in this one. Again, the finale is honestly the best part of the season, much like the former season. Except the second episode actually does come toe to toe with the finale, so maybe that's just me. But I do like the finale. Reason being, it really gives Tom and Kaz a nice character arc, something which the other seasons tried but failed so miserably. And I do like the final battle. I like how the Colossus and the Star Destroyer do face off against one another, and I like the way it ends. It's just, I do not like that this is the end of the entire show overall. I feel kids will be confused, especially considering it's a kids show and they get introduced to Kylo Ren and they're like, oh, he's the boss. He must be the boss's boss. He must be the guy Kaz will face in the future. Nope, Kaz will never meet this guy in the future. And again, it really angers me. And the fact that we don't even get the kids here, like the supposed force sensitive kids from the last season, they're not in this like at all. Maybe they're here or not. I don't know. I'm pretty sure there was an episode with a Sith temple or an ancient force user temple. Never got around to watching it because again, there were so many filler episodes. I just had to like skim through this season to watch all the story episodes. I really skipped through the filler episodes. I really didn't want that. Overall, Resistance Season 2, is it weaker or stronger than the first season? Again, that's a really mixed bag. I would say it's stronger than the first season in terms of animation and characters, whereas it's weaker in terms of story. The first season had a more streamlined story. All the characters were annoying except Yiga, who felt like he was actually a guy from the rebellion. He felt like a stronger character on his own. He felt, how do I put this? He felt genuine. In the second season, he feels a bit dumber to me. He even had a brother in the first season that he really was able to bounce off of. Captain Doza was alright in the first season. In the second one, we also get some character development with him, like really understanding the real weight and responsibility of owning an entire station. We even get this ex-Imperial dude. There was this guy from the Empire. He's really old, but he was one of Captain Doza's men. Then when the Empire fell, well, before the Empire fell, he left and decided to become a racer. He genuinely has a good story. I actually like his arc where he's like, the Empire never looked out for one another. I want to look out. That's a really good story. I like it. That's genuine Star Wars. So I feel like for this season, it really developed on most of the characters, except for a select few who are actually kind of annoying. Uh, mm, the story, again, it's very weak. This does not feel like final season material. There's no real war here or anything. I mean, there is a war, but it doesn't feel like we're at war. The only theme I can get from this season is the fact that the resistance is being treated by like a threat from the First Order. The First Order genuinely feels like the resistance is a threat, and I don't know. There is some happiness towards that. It makes the resistance feel bigger than they should, even though they are kind of a small organization. It does bring some satisfaction to me knowing that both sides see each other as such big threats that need to be taken out as soon as possible, and the fact that Kylo Ren is doing everything in his power to make sure the resistance is gone for good. Again, there is some satisfaction to that. So I do like the theme of this season of meaning we are at war, though you never show us we're at war. That would have been big helping. It would have been some nice stuff. Anywho's, yeah, so character development is good. better than the previous season. Animation is better. Story wise, not great. It's not better than the previous season. The themes are better. So I can say that maybe it is better than season one, whereas season one did have a better story and some good action here and there, and some good action especially towards the end. Season 2 really didn't have that action. It really only had a lot of action in like the final episode, where I was surprisingly emotionally invested. What the hell? And yeah, those are my thoughts on season 2. It's really not the best season. The story really damages this season a lot. It really does. I kind of wish we got to see Palpatine's speech at the end of the season, like how it would really tie in this movie and episode 9, but apparently that wasn't the plan yet. So yeah. Anyways, that's my review on Star Wars Resistance. Overall, out of 10, I would give it 6 out of 10, 5, 6 around there. So yeah, it's better than the first season, so I guess it's a 6 out of 10. It's still average, but just not as average as the first one was. If you have kids, go watch it. Yeah, they won't have a bad time while watching it. They have enough filler episodes to last them a lifetime, and you'll get your kicks in for the little Easter eggs they throw into Star Wars. Overall, don't really watch it. You're not losing or gaining anything. So, yeah. Anyways, I've been Captain Phoenix. Thank you so very much for watching, guys. This is going to be a part 1 of a part 3 storyline. I forgot to mention. So part 1 was the review. Part 2 will be what could have been, and then part 3 will be like, what was part 3 going to be about? I forgot. I'll let you know once I do part 2. Anyways, guys, thank you so very much for watching. With that, I've been Captain Phoenix. And with that, I'll see you in another universe.